this film is so captivating. I'm actually very surprised that it wasn't a documentary for reals, and everyone's performances is terrific. But we have to hear from you folks first. Is what initially drew you that you wanted to be part of this project?
Yeah, I guess I had worked with Rob on a couple of like little things here and there, but we both really felt like there was like a strong artistic sort of chemistry to that relationship. And so when he was approached with this script, he called me after that first meeting and he said, "I want you to read this. I think there's a role in here that would be really, really great for you." And I sat down and I read it and I fell in love with Linda on the page, and I felt like I could really, really relate to and understand her as a character, because sort of she is an actress looking for like her big break into the industry, and there is nothing that I can relate to more than that. And so the sort of synergy of like her wants and needs on the page and mine at this moment in my career felt like very kismet, like very too good to be true. And then also, I love a 1960s period piece. I think it's like one of the most beautiful, aesthetically pleasing time periods to be sort of stuck in for a couple of weeks.
Care?
Yeah, so I initially got sent the script and a really nice letter from Rob, with the offer for the part. And at first I was like, a boxing movie? Like, I don't know. I don't like sports. I don't really know anything about it. But then when I actually read the script, I was like, oh, this isn't really a boxing movie. And then there's this documentary element that really makes it unique. And it's more about a boxer. Um, than it is like about boxing, specifically. And then the part two, I thought it was really cool. It's something I'd never done. I never really get to play like an antagonist of any kind. And then so took a phone call with Rob and loved him, and was like, okay, I want to work with this guy. And then it was quite a few years before we actually made the film. But yeah, just sort of that initial phone call and letter and script, I was on board.
So true, so true. This is not just a boxing movie. It's much more of a family drama. So for the both of you, your characters are very unique in its own aspects for this drama. How did you get into the mental state of this? It must have been very challenging.
You want to kick that one off, Q?
Sure. Yeah, no, it was quite a challenging mental state to get into. I don't envy Billy at all, especially where he's at in this film. He's basically, I think it's fair to say he's at rock bottom. And obviously I wanted to make sure I did the addiction side of the character justice. And so I met up with a friend who's recovered heroin addict, and picked his brain. And then actually got to, when I got to Hartford, they were like, "Do you want to meet Billy? He still lives here." And I was like, wow, okay, of course I'm going to do that. Like, when do you get an opportunity to just sit down with the person you're playing, and ask him about his life? So I felt like that helped me as well. Not that I was trying to like impersonate him, but just to sort of like ask him about his dad and the time period and where he was at. And so yeah, I kind of had it easy in that way. I mean, I could really just look at the person, and and then obviously the character was there on the page as well. But I feel like Ruby had a very different experience.
Yeah, I think like I had a lot more sort of artistic freedom because unlike Keir and unlike James Matteo, our fantastic Willie, uh, the Linda that Steve created, she is sort of an amalgam of a bunch of Willie's real wives sort of combined into one, because he was married, I believe, 6 times. Um, and so I had a lot more like artistic license to sort of decide who I felt like this person really was. And besides like the intrinsic, I think, motivation that she has of like the want to become an actor, which again is something that I obviously can relate to and understand. Um, I got to sort of like, mold her a little bit more from the clay. And so a lot of that for me, at least in terms of my approach, is like it's so uh, contingent on what it is that like the other people bring into the room, the other like actors and the director, of course. And Rob did this really amazing thing where we would roll for like 5 to 10 minutes before we would jump into a take of any scene. and it would be improvisation. So he would ask us unscripted questions and we would answer in character. And I had preconceptions of who I thought Linda was coming in, but through that process, I got to know her so much more deeply. And it'll definitely inform like the way that I approach sort of character work. I think moving forward is that kind of in-depth and granular interview process really helped me like break down exactly who it is I thought this person was. But yeah.
Most excellent. Well, let me wrap it up with one last question, because as actors, you know, you're taught not to look into the camera, and this is a docu-style type of film where sometimes you have to look into the camera and break the fourth wall. Was this challenging to turn it on and off, you know, trying to look in the camera, not look in the camera, look back in the camera, back and forth?
I think my answer is very different than if you were to poll like 95% of the rest of the cast, because this is my first movie. I had done like a little bit of on-camera work before, but mostly theater, where obviously that's not so much a concern. I guess you don't want to like be staring at the audience's faces either, but yeah, so for me, I think it was like less difficult to sort of untrain my brain. And I worry more. I guess I'll probably have to be more, you know, vigilant moving forward in future projects, because I don't want to have like inherited any bad habits. But I don't think that'll be an issue. But yeah, for me, it was a much different experience.
Yeah, for me, 21 years of being told like never look this way, never, you know, don't react to things that are happening that aren't happening in the scene. It really messed me up, and it was a real adjustment that I kind of didn't expect until I got there. And then Rob was like, "Oh, you know, look at us, don't look at us. We're here. I'll be literally the director." Like, he's like, "I have cigarettes. If you know, want to bug me for a cigarette, like you can grab the boom mic. You can, I mean, basically do anything but like full contact, you know, tackling them." And so it was more like getting, I mean, I think Ruby's described it in a really good way, which is like there's like another person in the room, there's another character that you're factoring in. And I think once I got my head around that it's like, okay, now this is a scene. It's not just, you know, the two of us. There's now 4 people or 5 people or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of just like more people in the scenes with us. But it was very weird, and doing these long like 15-minute takes as well, like was not used to that, and it takes a lot of stamina actually as an actor.
Well, this is a very fascinating movie. All of your performances are very captivating and very well done. So thank you both for speaking to us about the Featherweight. Everyone needs to check it out. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.